What's up, guys? What's up, Buck fans? Welcome up, everyone. We're back. It's Monday. It's Live Stream Monday. Guess what? We didn't win, but we did win the Super Bowl. Awesome stuff. We're joined together by Mr. Evan Wanish from the Cannon's Fire. Oh, I already messed it up. So, Cannon's Fire podcast.
There you go.
And we're actually happy because it's our first guest of the offseason. But as always, Mark Ramirez joined by Michael Pless. Evan Wanish, welcome to the show. Give everyone a little taste of what you do, where you're at, and what you like to talk about.
Yeah, so to many people's surprise, maybe I'm not in Florida. I'm in near the Philadelphia area. So I've never lived in Florida. I've always lived here. So a lot of people ask me why I've become a Bucs fan. Truly just because of my dad. But I'm a co-host of the Cannon Fire podcast. I've been doing it since 2017 season, I think, or right at the end of the 2016 season, around there. And we love doing it. We do it on a show on YouTube for our YouTube people, and then you can find us on every major podcasting platform there is. Just search Cannon Fire Podcast, and you can find us there.
Awesome. So, Evan, let's run it down. So, obviously, Bucs win the Super Bowl. Tom Brady became a Buccaneer. It's like, holy crap, whirlwind. We went straight there. It was like, how did this happen? We went from we can't win a season to now we're winning Super Bowls. So, give us a quick rundown how you thought this season went. Like the whole rash of we're getting everyone that we wanted, and then we're at the promised land and we're holding up the cup pretty much. What do you think of it?
Yeah, I mean, to me, it was really I knew that chemistry was going to be important, right? Mm-hmm. But I didn't want to make that an excuse for every little thing that went wrong. Like week 1 versus New Orleans, I would be like, okay, like I didn't really expect that to be a win. Mm-hmm. I thought anybody that was really picking the Bucs to win, yeah, you could be optimistic, but like that was going to be a difficult game. That was going to be a very, very difficult game with New Orleans having their chemistry and no preseason, no OTAs, basically no training camp. I mean, very abbreviated training camp. So I wasn't really sure about that, but then you could see as the season went on, that chemistry was real, and it really, really got there. And then obviously the bye week hit, and they're 7-5 coming off of two losses that, didn't really leave a great taste in your mouth. And then they just go on this run. And to me, that's like the offense really clicked in the second half of the Atlanta game, the first Atlanta game in Atlanta, I think, because they were slow. I mean, Minnesota, they only put up 26 points. And then they were down 17-0 to Atlanta in the first half. So, I mean, it was a slow start, and then they just woke up, and the rest is history. So they went on a great playoff run, and it was nice to finally beat the Saints. That was a nice. That might have actually been almost better than the Super Bowl, I think, because that's where, like, back in the day with Philly, right? The Bucs could never beat Philly, and then once they did, they were able to win the Super Bowl almost with ease. And that sort of felt the same way here.
Yeah. So, all right, we got some people in the chat. Love seeing you guys in here. Let's get some questions for Mr. Evan Wanish. I mean, we're of the Cannon Fire podcast. Get it right this time. Yeah. But, so I guess before we jump into free agency and the draft, let's get some other questions that you want to address. So, what do you think the worst game of the season was, really quick, in your eyes?
I mean, that has to be the New Orleans Sunday night game. They just got walloped. I mean, that was just a whooping. Every phase they got beat. They not really. I mean, I guess Ryan Suckup made his only field goal and he didn't miss any kick, because that's literally the only person I think who showed up. So I think it has to be that one.
It was ugly.
Yeah, I would agree with that completely. I think, the Saints game was pretty awful. I mean, right after that one, probably the Bears game. I mean, that was just offense couldn't do anything right. And then, you lose Vita Vea too, so that hurt. But, definitely that Saints game, that was just like, just a gut check.
Yeah, to turn a game off at like halftime.
Yeah.
Disgusting. Oh, Rendax in the chat. Can Evan describe his mustache?
It's a work in progress. I'll describe it as that. It's a work in progress. It's something that something that I debate on shaving pretty much every day, but I never seem to do it. So,
it's like Stamkos stash. It's like there, but it's lingering. It has potential, but it's like,
yeah.
Are we there yet? Are we not there yet?
Yeah, it doesn't really know what it wants to do yet. So hopefully it'll figure it out soon.
All right, it's A-okay. We got some new people in the chat. Jared the Legend. Awesome to see you in here. Always good to see new faces in the chat. Keep asking questions. Always good to see you. But let's move on. Obviously, we all know we won the Super Bowl. We're excited about it. And some people want to celebrate it until free agency actually begins. But let's talk about it. So we have a long list of free agents. We have Chris Godwin. We have Shaq Barrett. Those two alone command so much money. So talking about those first two, who do you think will command the most money? And do you think we can actually get both back, in your opinion?
Well, I do think they can get both back. I think they're gonna, if they both enter the open market, I think they both command pretty similar money on a long-term deal. It's going to be around $19 to $20 million a year, I think, for both guys. Maybe a tad more for Godwin, just because he is 24 years old. So, and I mean, still, like, he's had 1,000-yard season, but you can see, like, his best days are still ahead of him. So some team might want to make that long-term investment. But I think, we talked about it before the show, the franchise tag thing opens tomorrow, right? When teams can start to franchise guys. To me, if you look at it, it's obvious that Chris Godwin is the candidate for the Bucs. Last year, it was pretty obvious that Shaq Barrett was. Then, the Bucs wanted Shaq Barrett to sort of prove himself. Didn't have the greatest regular season, not as good as 2019, but in the playoffs, he proved his worth. So I do think they could bring both of them back, but I think long-term deals for both might be a little unrealistic. I think one of them has to be on the tag, and most likely Godwin. Is that wide receiver tag number seems pretty reasonable, around $15.8 million, I think it's projected to be. So I do think that they can bring both back, but I don't know if they can bring both back on long-term deals, which they would probably like to.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think, looking at the options, obviously, I think Chris is going to get the tag, like you said. Now it's just about, how you want to structure, Shaq Barrett's deal. Obviously they want to bring him back on a long-term deal. They would like to do the same for Chris, if they have to go with Chris as the franchise tag and then, potentially, sign him to a long-term deal after this season, see just some more consistency, see him not being injured, see if he can put up the numbers that we saw him do 2 seasons ago. I think that'll be, that'll be a good way to go. But, Shaq, it's just, he's going to demand high money just because of pass rushers and the limit of them, for sure.
Okay, and then we didn't even mention Levante David, Robert, Dominican Sue, Fournette, Antonio Brown. So, Levante, I think everyone's just assuming, it's an unseen thing. He's already going to be here. He's already going to be back. To me, he is a lifer Buccaneer. There was rumors of, just what's going to happen? Could he leave? And then he came out saying, let me enjoy this for a moment. Holy crap. Let me enjoy the Super Bowl hoisting that thing up in the air. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of money that needs to be signed back. And Sue isn't one that usually takes discounts either. So that's another area where I'm like, I don't know. But I honestly think the hardest one will be Shaq, to me, in my opinion. Gronkowski's not going to get $9 million like he did last year. It ain't going to happen. He's not a top 3 target. So there's no point in warranting $9 million. But with that said, let's go to Antonio Brown, Leonard Fournette. Do you think any one of those two gets signed back, and do you even want them to be back?
Well, the one I'm most confident is going to leave, I think, is probably Leonard Fournette. I think it's, if you look at it, I think it's really obvious that, at times they weren't even completely sold on him. And I'm sure they would like to have him back, but they would like to have him back at their price, which is basically the minimum almost, especially since they're going to be they're going to be, tight on the cap. So they're going to need to, they can't really spend $4 million, $5 million a year on a running back. So I do think that some team out there is going to look at his playoff performance and sort of ignore the regular season stuff and say, give him a shot. So I think Leonard Fournette's probably the most likely of all the free agents to be gone. And then Antonio Brown's a tricky one to me. And I'm not sure what you guys think, but I seriously think it's 50-50. Like I really do, because I just don't know what his market's going to be. The Ravens and Seahawks were interested in him before he signed with Tampa and he was going to, get off the suspension. Are those two teams going to be interested in him now? Or, now that he's sort of, behaved himself and was productive for, a little bit in Tampa, are there going to be more teams in the mix? What type of money are they offering? And then from Tampa's side, like I'm sure they'll want him back. How powerful is the, allure of Tom Brady being here? How powerful is that, and how much does that weigh into Brown's decision? I seriously think it's 50-50, and I'm not sure. I haven't decided officially what I'm leaning towards yet, but I think it's going to that's come down to what the market is, I think.
Plus, I'll let you take it first.
Yeah, I agree with what you said there, Evan. But realistically, I think both are most likely gone. I don't feel the need to bring either back. I like Scotty Miller. I like Tyler Johnson. I would like to see those guys get more featured. Especially with Mike Evans and hopefully Chris Godwin being back. So I just don't see a fit for Antonio Brown going forward. But if they want to sign him for less than $2 million or something like that, incentive base, maybe. But I would probably lean towards both being gone.
Damn it, Pless. Why do we always got to agree on the same damn thing?
I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Leonard Fournette. And then, so Raymond made a good point here as well, like saying wasting another year for Miller and Johnson can't be wasted for another year. Talking about AB. And we've mentioned that in past live streams. It's just like you have all this talent. You saw what Tyler Johnson did in the playoffs. He made big play after big play on third downs. Yes, Antonio Brown was a hell of a pickup mid-season. No one expected him to be a Buccaneer. And we helped him clean his slate for a lot, 8, maybe 12 games since he made it all the way through the playoffs too without getting in trouble. So maybe now he has his opportunity to go do whatever he wants. Maybe he does want to stay with Brady. I don't know. But again, like you said, contract matters. Plus, looking at the Bucs side of things, we have Scotty Miller, who was literally balling out before this signing. Like, you don't waste that either. Like, he's a true speed threat where we were spreading the ball around everywhere with him. So I almost want to see what it could be with him. Plus, OJ Howard coming back healthy. How many more weapons you got? You need to have them. Plus the money's probably going to want to demand. And then Leonard Fournette, that's another thing. What about Vaughn? I mean, let him develop, let him become what Rojo was his second year too. So I don't know. I just don't think I'm not going to forget the first regular season by Fournette either. So like you mentioned, I mean, I don't know. Let Fournette get his money unless he truly does want to be team first. I don't know. But before we go on to the next topic, Jeff Goodrich, thank you again. He says, thanks for the content, guys. Please put your logo on a shirt for me. Yes. Plus and I need to get on that. Lazy with that. We had a shirt and all that stuff set up, and then we took it down. We got to get back on it. We got to get on Patreon. We got to get all this stuff going. The boy, I know the boy he's slowing me down, but it's all good. It's all good. Plus is helping out big time. But let's keep going. So yeah, I mean, I see your point though with Lenny, and I mean, he's Lombardi Lenny. It's insane. But let's keep going. So the next free agents, Sue. What was the other one? Just Sue. Do you think Sue comes back? And he said he wanted to come back, but do you think he comes back?
If he does come back, I don't think it's going to be at the $8 million that he got last year. I think reasonably $5 million, $4 million, maybe. Last offseason, I really wasn't in favor of bringing him back. I felt like there was going to be better options out. I just felt like there was going to be better options out there. He was a little bit older. I felt like his 2019 was average per se. And I didn't know really what his number was going to be. So,
expression. Forgive me.
And then, this year he was better this year. I actually think, and he was better this year than he was in his first year. So I mean, I would be open to bringing him back. If I had to guess, I would say he's probably back, but I don't think it's going to be at $8 million or whatever. I think, and I truly think that while he says he wants to be back, I think retirement still may be a thing for him. I think that's not completely ruled out yet. I know he said he got the okay from his wife. To keep playing, which is obviously important, but I still wouldn't completely rule out retirement. I think he's a guy, maybe he goes into free agency, has an offer from the Bucs already in the back of his hand, and then sees what it is. And if he doesn't like the Bucs offer enough and there's nobody else offering, he has to weigh, does he want to return to Tampa or does he want to have his last year in the NFL be him holding up a Lombardi? I think it's a tough decision, but if I had to guess, I would say he's probably back.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the free agents, and obviously we talked about Godwin, Shaq, Barrett, Levante. I think those are priorities, and I put Sue right up there with those guys because I feel like he's a very important piece of this defense. I mean, him and Vita Vea being able to, occupy 4 offensive linemen every snap. It gives opportunities for guys like Shaq Barrett and JPP to do what they do. So that's why I would probably rate, Ndamukong Suh maybe a little higher than most people are, as far as priority lists, bringing him back. I think I hope he's back because looking at this draft, and I know we're going to get into draft talk, and, just the defensive line class, the defensive tackle class is not very strong. And, free agency, I don't really see any other options, as far as, just doing what Sue can do. And he really had a good year last year. So I'm all for, him bringing him back. Again, it's going to be at a lower salary, like you said.
Hey, you didn't butcher the first half of the intro, so don't worry about it. No. But
cannon fire. Let's fire the cannons.
Fire the cannon. Hey, I know that guy. But yeah, if anyone follows our YouTube channel or our film studies, everyone knows that we like Sue a lot. If we had this last year, we would have talked up Sue even more. We're all over Twitter saying how Sue does his assignment. Everyone gets mad that he may look lazy at sometimes. He's a big boy. I don't know what you're expecting him to do. So sometimes I don't get the crap that he kind of gets. He's a professional. He literally makes everyone else around him better. I mean, William Golson attributes everything that he's done and him improving over the year to Stu as well. So I mean,
he's improved a lot,
right?
William Golson, yeah.
So I guess Stu's a big bag of trash. But I mean, I say that because he gets so much flap or just so much crap that it's funny to me. I don't know. Considering
it all goes back to the McCoy versus Sue. True. That's where it comes from. It's never going to end. It's just like the Jameis Winston saga, never going to end. We see it on Twitter. I mean, it's like, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Well, we know who we want to bring back. It seems like, I mean, a lot of people, I saw Jack Barrett, where is he at? He's saying about how you got to have all these good guys. Here it is. I think the more good players you have at crucial positions is the best strategy. I would love for the boys to have a great season, but you have a Super Bowl window. Don't waste it. I think he's saying, as in bringing AB, bringing Lenny back. But the thing is, it's still, you got a salary cap. I know a lot of people are like, oh, it's just, you can finagle things.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can to a certain extent, but then do you want to be with the Saints?
Yeah, Saints did for years. Again, they just didn't win. They didn't win in their window. So now it's like, okay, are the Bucs going to take this kind of approach? I mean, that remains to be seen. It's really just going to come down to negotiation and how much guys are willing to take less. Just keep the core together.
What, J. Elmore? I'm going to make this right now. I'm making that right now.
That's us in a nutshell.
Yeah. I was blocked by the former, but I'm going to keep going.
Oh man, that guy.
I think he just blocked everybody. So
he does. Yeah.
All right. Well, McCoy.
That was my work. I got blocked.
If this is true, Ren, I love peanut butter, so then this is exactly true. 100%. But let's keep going on. So we know who we want to bring back. We kind of know how to finagle money around. One of these guys is going to get the franchise tag. Let's be honest. And the rest is going to be somewhere long-term finagling money around. I just don't think AB and Lenny will. Evan, maybe you're right. Maybe we find a way to find one of these like player or team-friendly contract. But let's keep going on now to free agents that might want to come here. So you've heard all the rumors of guys that are available. JJ Watt is available. Oh, we're the Buccaneers. We have Tom Brady. He's coming. That's what media is going to say. Then you have the rumors of Von Miller. He's not even a free agent yet, but they'll cut him. It's a sure thing. He's going to get cut. So of all these rumors and stuff, or even not even a big name, who is a guy that you think the Bucs should go after, or one of these big names that the Bucs are looking at?
Well, I think in a perfect world, looking at per se, in a perfect world, I think actually JJ Watt would be a fantastic fit. I think his versatility along the defensive line, being able to put his hand in the ground versus being able to stand up and rush from the outside against tackles, I think would prove very valuable to this team. And I mean, JJ Watt was on the worst defensive line in the NFL last year. Like the Texans' defensive line sucked, and JJ Watt was getting double teamed at the high. I think he was the most double teamed defensive lineman in the NFL. So yeah, he had, I believe, 5.5 sacks, but most of the time he's the only person you have to pay attention to. Imagine if you put him on a line, and if you're able to keep Barrett or you're able to keep Sue, you put him on a line with not only JJ Watt, but Vita Vea and Jason Pierre-Paul and Shaq Barrett, and then maybe a guy like Will Golston or Ndamukong Suh, one of those two maybe. In a perfect world, I think you could definitely bring him in and he could be a very good impact player for you. He's still got plenty left in the tank. I think they actually do have interest in him, but like I said, we don't live in a perfect world, so I don't think it's very likely. Salary cap's not turned off, right? This isn't Madden. If I know we say it every time, like we were, when people were saying, "Oh, Antonio Brown's coming," no, this isn't Madden, and then he ends up coming, right? I looked like a fool every time because I said, "Oh, Leonard Fournette's that's not gonna happen." It happened. Antonio Brown's not gonna happen. It happened. So I can never say never, especially after the last offseason, right? Didn't think they would have Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, and all those other guys. So I think JJ Watt would be a perfect one. Obviously, the other one's running back James White. That's the obvious one. A name that I actually like that was mentioned on the Draft Network today by Trevor Sikkema. He had put out an article that just said 6 offensive free agents the Bucs should target. And one of them was Tevin Coleman from the 49ers. Now, he does have some injury history. He has dealt with injuries in both of his years with the 49ers, but he's a guy I've really come to like. I liked him when he was with the Falcons. I wanted the Bucs to sign him when he's a free agent beforehand. He can catch the ball. He can run the ball. He can pass block a little bit. I think he'd be a pretty good complement to Jones. So that's a guy, if you could get him for cheap on a low risk deal because he's because he is so injury prone per se, and he's getting up there in age, I would definitely look into it.
Yeah, I think those are some good names to look at. Obviously JJ Watt, that'd be awesome to bring that guy in, and just the leadership he can bring, and then pairing him with Vita Vea, JPP, etc. That's trouble. Yeah, or
yeah.
And Ndamukong Suh bring him back as well. A lot of versatility. So I say that's definitely an option, especially if they don't, find a common ground with Shaq Barrett. If they decide to let him walk, maybe you bring in JJ Watt for a little lesser contract. But there's options there. You look at, it just depends on who's available, right? You have Bud Dupree maybe coming off an injury. I really like Hassan Reddick. I know he's going to get big bucks, but man, I really like him. Just that they finally found a way to use him correctly.
Been drinking, plus.
I know. I'm going full Madden here, so I'm going, going all in. But there's a lot of names. Jadeveon Clowney may be a possibility if cheap. You never know. So And then, offensively, you look at, James White. I think that everyone's saying James White, it's just because he's Tom Brady's, guy. It makes a lot of sense, bring him on a lesser contract and you just have him. And then maybe you draft another running back somewhere. Then you have a really good, 4-man group there available. So, yeah, I mean, Leonard Floyd, I see in the chat. That's, another one.
Yeah.
Justin Houston, sure. I mean, just depends. I mean, really the question is how many calls is Jason Light going to get
Crap ton
from these guys that want to join Tom Brady? I mean, we saw it last year. It seemed like every free agent was interested to come here, but it just depends on, contract and cap. So
they want to come, but they want to get paid too.
Yeah.
It's not, it's gotta be, maybe they'll take, if one team's offering them $5 million a year and the Bucs are offering $3 million, maybe they go with the Bucs offer. But if if one team's offering them $8 million, they're not turning down $5 million to go play for Tampa.
Right. No, I agree.
Fournette was like that one was more odd to me than AB, because AB, I mean, he had to prove something.
Yeah.
Tom Brady was his guy helping him through the whole thing. I can understand that. Fournette, I'm like, why? Why did we even get him? Why did he want to come here? But I'm not mad about it. He possibly could have been the MVP of that Super Bowl. I think they just gave it to Tom Brady because no one asked for anything else. But I mean, plus you're drunk on Hassan Reddick. He's that young, coming off a 12.5 sack season.
Yeah.
He's going for the money.
That's true.
I mean, what if we get another playoff Lenny or Lombardi Lenny, a Leonard Floyd this time? I mean, what?
I do like him.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, because
he's a good fit.
He'd probably be cheaper too. He'd be cheaper than Barrett, a tad bit cheaper. So
right.
Like a lot. I mean, so the thing is, like with us, we always talk about it. This defense is built from the middle. So if you get the pressure in the middle, the outside linebackers get easier sacks because they're being flushed out. So you don't really need to pay that much. That's why we kind of made the argument of how much do you really give Barrett? He's asking for the Brink truck, then I can't do it, to me, honestly. So if he's asking for $20 million a year, I can't. I'm sorry, I just can't do it. So I don't know. So you almost have to look differently on that one. I can see the James White area. Like I would not pay a running back a lot at all. Like Tevin Coleman, if he's asking for money, I mean, he can't. He didn't even have. He's been hurt ever since he signed with the 49ers. So
yeah,
I don't know. So and Clowney, I don't know.
Clowney, I'm iffy on.
Like he was.
He's a good run. He's a good run defender.
When he was touted as like one of the best edge rushers, and he sat out his junior year and everything. So I had a bad taste in my mouth with him. So I don't know. But
Carl Lawson would be fun.
He'd be fun. Yeah, he'd be a fun little player.
He's going to get paid.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people, Clowney, no thank you. We already have defensive end with knee issues. I mean, to be honest, like we said at the beginning, if you just hold what we have already and then build on it, I mean, the offense is going to, I think, be able to carry the defense, even if it needs to be. Imagine another year of Tom Brady learning the system, OJ healthy, all these guys in the same system. Holy hell. I mean, you don't even have to make massive improvements anywhere. You already know you can win it. You can. But with that.
Yeah, Tony here's spot on. Yeah, that's kind of where we're thinking it. It's just not worth that kind of money, especially when you look at.
Is he a freak of nature athlete like those two guys are?
Right. I mean, you just look at the sack production. I mean, it's mainly 80% when Vita Vea is on the field, right? So, is he just a product of the scheme, or is he a guy that can really, take over a game? I mean, he's shown flashes of it for sure. I mean, gets a ton of pressures, and pressures are wins, but that's, what's going on in the middle. That's where it comes from.
One thing, does he get paid like he did from the year before last year where he had 19.5 sacks, or does he get it from this year with like 10? Not even.
Yeah, well, if you talk to his agent, it's going to be the 19 sack year. But if you talk to the Bucs, it's going to be this year.
For real. So, I mean, it's a big toss up. What's going to happen with the money?
Would you guys? The franchise tag for him last year was $16 million. Would you be fine with just offering him $16 million on a long term deal?
What?
I think I'd be comfortable with that. You give him, 16, maybe 5-year deal. You're looking, what is that, upward 80 million? I think I'd be okay with that.
Wouldn't be upset. I mean, that's
Yeah.
he is a good player. I'm not going to say he's not.
I mean,
good.
the real debate, comes, do you pay him as an outside linebacker or do you pay him as a defensive end? I think that's where the contract negotiation is really going to get, serious, because he's obviously going to want to be paid as a defensive end because they make so much more.
Yeah.
Forgive me, he had 8 sacks. Dumb me.
he had 8, but then you have
he had sacks in the playoffs.
Yeah, so. he had 3. He didn't have 2 or 3 in the Packers game, and then he had 1 in the Super Bowl, right?
Right.
Oh, he lit it up those last 2 games. But
yeah. Vita Vea. Yeah. It's
people need to give the fat guy some credit. Oh, so a lot of people were asking, what am I drinking? Is it a root beer? It's not a root beer. It's actually a Kona Brewing Company IPA. So, yes. Someone said it's a craft beer, probably. There you go. But let's keep going on. So we saw free agents that we may want to go after. We'll probably get more in depth with that as the weeks go on. We actually
it's really just knowing who's available. Once we know who's available, then we can really dive
much
into
easier.
it.
Yeah.
But now let's move even further. The draft. We're drafting 32nd for the first time ever.
Awesome.
Right? It's crazy to think. Even though we won the Super Bowl, we traded away because of John Gruden, right? So at 32, the options are endless. It could be anyone. But a lot of people have certain positions that we think we need, like outside linebacker, edge rusher, stuff like that. So I guess, Evan, who do you think is in need, or where do you see an improvement that needs to be addressed in this team?
Yeah, I am going to look at outside linebacker and interior defensive line, mostly because when Jason Pierre-Paul isn't getting any younger, and he's a free agent next year. So even if you bring back, let's say you bring back Shaq Barrett and you bring back Ndamukong Suh, you bring back the whole defensive line, right? You bring them all back. I still believe that eventually you're going to need this youth. And then you're going to be wanting to use your first round pick or, premium picks on, maybe moving up for a quarterback eventually in 2-3 years, maybe if you see the right one, or just staying and picking a quarterback there. So I don't know if you want to be worrying about the future of an entire defensive line, when you should be focusing on the future of quarterbacks. So I personally would, it all depends on who's on the board, right? Because you don't get to just choose anybody. So if there's a, player there, I like Jalen Phillips from Miami. It's a little bit of a risk because he does have some injuries. He actually retired from football and then came back and then transferred to Miami. So there's a little bit of a risk there, but I think as far as like potential goes, I think he's a really, really good player and he has a very high ceiling. Christian Barmore, the interior defensive lineman from Alabama, we talked about before the show. My one concern with him, this interior defensive line class is the weakest it's been in a few years. So I maybe have some hesitation picking the best guy of that class. That if this was an average interior defensive line class, I'm not convinced that he's the top interior defensive lineman. So he's a solid player. I think he could be a good pro, but I'm just not sure about the value there at the end of the first round. I know that 32nd pick is basically like a second round pick, but I'm still not sure about that value. Also, I wouldn't be opposed to trading out of the first round altogether, getting more picks. So I'm always I love the draft, so I'm always down to get more picks.
Yeah, I'm the same way. I look at that 32nd pick. If you have an opportunity to trade down, I think you definitely try to take advantage of that, especially your next pick is so late. It's like so many, right. Yeah. So many picks that go by. So, I'm definitely in the boat for trading back. But like you said, edge rusher, defensive tackle, I think is definitely a need. We definitely need to get, younger there. Guys, if you haven't checked out our draft content, we already put up, videos of Marvin Wilson, Joseph Asai. We got Joe Tryon coming out tomorrow. So there's a little spoiler for you. We put Javonte Williams out today. That's a running back. Again, now everyone's panicking. Oh, we're taking running back first round. No.
Scott Reynolds would really love you guys for saying they're taking Javonte Williams.
Yeah, that's his pick for his mock draft. So, really good player. I really like his tape. So, but I think defensive line. Edge rushers. You look at Azeez Ojulari from Georgia. The guy you mentioned, Jalen Phillips, I think he's a stud. Like that guy, he's probably the best pass rusher of the group. I mean, he's got it all as far as, inside, outside, strength, really good prospect. So, I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm always for more picks. So I think you want to get as many shots at getting the answer right as you can. Because, I mean, even Jason Light even says it. It's like, yeah, you trust your staff. You think you 100%, but you're dealing with people. You don't really 100% know no matter what. Even like everyone saw Moneyball. Everyone's like, oh, this guy's a surefire thing. No one really knows. I mean, you may see the best thing on tape, but he's a head case. Johnny Manziel. I mean, you may see Ryan Leaf. Stuff like that. So it's like, you never know. Like, or injuries look at Justin Evans, gone. Kendall Beckwith, gone. 2 really good high day 2 picks, gone just because of an injury. So, I mean, to me, I'm like, the more you have to work with, just talent, the quantity of quality guys you have in your team matters. And if you can trade down, I'm all for it. I mean, that's like the Patriot way. We have Tom Brady. Keep doing that. Maybe it's the Brady way, not the Patriot way. But I mean, if we stay pat, I'm always like a fat guy. Always want either D-line, offensive line. If you can get one of the best guys of those, again, you're winning the line. That's what we did to the Chiefs on both sides of the ball. We ran the ball and we passed rush like hell. Keep adding to those strengths. I mean, don't lose that. I like your 2 guys, Christian Barmore. We're going to have him coming out soon too, guys. Stay tuned. Jalen Phillips, we've peeked at him already. He's got talent. I'll give you that. But the fact is that you're saying he's at 32. He may be one of the best edge rushers in this class. That's saying something. Like the fact that you can get the best edge rusher at 32 because of off the field stuff. Again, how bad is this edge rushing class?
And also the off field stuff, something that Jason Light's going to have to obviously research, right? Are they comfortable with, there's been some talk that he has a real passion for music. Is football his number one concern? I'm not saying that it has to be his number one concern, but is football, his like top thing. And then obviously the injuries, and that's what could cause him to slide to 32. Because if this guy had a clean bill of health, I mean, he would have still been at UCLA, and he would probably be a top 10 pick. He probably would be. So there's a reason that he would be available at 32. He is not perfect. But just based on potential, that guy, just like you said, Mike, he's a stud.
I feel like this is a good point too. By Jared, he said most probably be taken by 32, and that makes sense because it is not a very strong edge class. It's top heavy. So you're going to have teams out there who need pass rush, and they're going to reach a little bit, and so that goes into the point I wanted to make about what Mark was saying with offensive line. I think you look at this offensive line class, especially tackle, very strong, it's depth. So if you can get a guy like Sam Cosme, or maybe you get a guy like Alex Leatherwood who could play inside or outside. So there's a lot of versatility there. Jalen Mayfield, Tevin Jenkins, any of those guys, if they do fall, I think those should be really good picks because Donovan Smith, he's up for contract next year. You're going to need a replacement possibly. So it's always good to take offensive linemen. So I think those could be a factor, but then we get into running back. If those edge rushers get taken early, maybe a Najee Harris, maybe a Travis Etienne falls, and you're looking at a stud running back that you can have for the next 5 years, and you can let, Ronald Jones go. You could still have Keyshawn Vaughn, et cetera, as your backup. I think that makes a lot of sense, right?
Evan, I'll let you take this.
Yeah, I do think it makes sense. I think it, I personally, I'm with you guys. I'm not a big guy in paying running backs huge money. I think historically it just doesn't work. Unless you're, like Christian McCaffrey, a player that can do sort of both. Like you can line him up at receiver on a lot of your sets and he can make it work. Alvin Kamara, same thing. Like those types of players, I would be fine with paying. Because I think they can do more than this. That they're not your just normal running back. The issue with Najee Harris and Travis Etienne is I just don't think either one's going to be there.
Yeah,
and especially Harris. I think during this draft process, Harris is a guy that's going to probably be the first running back off the board. Maybe Arizona. I think it's 16.
I've seen that. That would be crazy.
With in that offense with Kyler and Hopkins and Kingsbury calling it. Yeah, that'd be pretty scary for NFC West. But and then Miami at 18, and then if you get past them, maybe the Jets, maybe the Steelers, maybe the Bills. So there's just so many obstacles for the Bucs to land either Harris or Etienne. And the same thing almost with the edge rushers. I mean, the Titans need an edge rusher. The Raiders desperately need an edge rusher. The Ravens could use an edge rusher. The Browns could use an edge rusher. So I mean, and all four of those teams are, I believe, the Raiders are the lowest one. They're 17. All four of those teams are in like the 17 to 26 range, and they're all ahead of the Bucs. So yeah, you could be looking at a scenario where all those pass rushers are pretty much gone, and you have to either take a guy like Christian Barmore, who could be there, or look at potentially trading back or taking a guy like Javonte Williams, which I'm fairly confident that Williams will be available at 32. I don't think anybody's going to pick him higher than that. But I mean, it'd be interesting because that fifth year option is a big deal. That's team control, cheaper team control for an extra year. That's definitely a big deal. And I think something that even like the Kansas City Chiefs last year, when they picked Clyde Edwards-Helaire, I think that was going through their mind as well. So I think there is a ton of options, and don't really know how they can screw it up much, but there's a lot of options. So
yeah. To summarize, let's trade down, guys. I think that's gonna be our best option.
This is something funny. I kind of talked with Robert Greene about outside leverage. If you guys aren't following him, follow him. He's really good informational Buccaneer content. Like about that fifth year and having that extra year of player control or team control, right? I'm like, what are we, the damn Rays? I mean, you serious? You're struggling to hold on to guys that bad? I mean, if we want a guy, we're going to pay him. We're talking about it like it's so damn easy this year, but what if it's a draft pick? We got to hold that 50. To me, I mean, it's not that big a deal, especially for a running back. Running backs usually don't make it to that next contract. If they do, they're going to be making an astronomical amount of money. And again, I don't like to pay running backs.
Yeah.
So to me, if it is a running back, cool. It's not because of the extra year. I'm not downing the case at all. I thought it was kind of funny. It's almost like a Tampa Rays thing. I don't know. But I mean, yeah, to sum it all, I would trade down for more, but to me, we're sitting pretty. Like whatever falls to us, let it fall. And if we want to get out because someone sees, maybe a quarterback did fall, or someone wants like Mac Jones, right? Isn't his name?
Yeah.
Falling down. Oh, maybe they want to trade up, but we'll see. I mean, I think it's a prime spot. And so I actually would want to know if we did take a tackle, we took like an offensive lineman. Evan, what would you think?
Well, to me, it would depend on the lineman. I like Samuel Cosme from Texas. I do like Jalen Mayfield. I'm iffy on Alex Leatherwood. I do like his versatility, but in that spot, I do like Liam Eichenberg, I think it is, from Notre Dame. I like him. He's more of a fit at right tackle kinda. And I know a lot of people say, the easy move, just move worse to left tackle. I just don't think it's not that easy. Like it's just, switching like that is just not that easy. So to me, an offensive lineman wouldn't be my first choice because they just picked one in the first round last year. And I think their offensive line is actually like a real strength. And plus their offensive line isn't it's not like an aging offensive line, and like it's not declining. So I personally, that wouldn't be my first choice, but I also wouldn't be mad because defensive line or offensive line, I don't really think you can go wrong most of the time in the first round. Pass rushers, defensive linemen, offensive linemen, whatever. Whenever you're picking them in the first round, I don't think you can go very wrong.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Evan. Would you take a risk on I think interior offense line might be a bigger need than say tackle, and you look at maybe a Landon Dickerson. I mean, at 32, I know he's coming off the injuries. That is a concern. But when you watch his tape, man, that guy, he's a beast, right?
Yeah, he's a good player, and I mean, you may, Alex Kappa is a free agent after this season, and Ryan Jensen at center. If you wanted to look for a future center, Ryan Jensen's going to be 30 years old, and he's a free agent after this season. So, Dickerson's a guy I do like, and I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think a guy like Dickerson, I think, is where you could possibly move out of the first round, not too far down, but move out of the first round, get an extra pick or two, and then still get a guy like Dickerson, which I also think they could maybe get with Javonte Williams too, if they were dead set on taking him. Look, if somebody's offering you, a team like I don't know, a team that's in like the top 10 of maybe Detroit wants Mac Jones for the future. They don't, maybe they just want Jared Goff some competition or like a placeholder or something. They can give you that, and they give you an extra pick or something. That I wouldn't be opposed to. But yeah, I mean, I think it's like I said, can never go wrong. I think drafting offensive linemen, defensive linemen, or pass rushers in early on, and I think it's evident right there.
Well, this is kind of funny. Raymond said Bucs spent $4.2 million on a running back position last year. Anyone think they'd like to play running backs?
Yeah,
4.7. He corrected it. Raymond's good with that. He is good. But, I mean, yeah, I agree with that sentiment already. I hope they keep doing that. I mean, and Light usually fixes his mistakes quickly now. Mid the kicker decision, he's like, oh hell no, I gotta get rid of this. Quickly changed it. Maybe he's like the Doug Martin contract. He's like, do that again. I mean, just can't. The running back position just doesn't. There's no longevity in it. So
Well, that's why I don't see Ronald Jones being back, because I think Light just has learned his lesson with. If Ronald Jones, if he gets over, he was going to get over 1,000 yards this year. He's likely probably to get a little bit over 1,000 yards next year, and I just don't think Jason Light is going to have any interest in paying him $5-6 million a year. I just don't see it.
And what do? We don't throw the tight ends. We don't run the ball. We throw the ball down the field, right? So
yeah,
are we going to give top dollar to a running back now? It's just
not the Tennessee Titans, right? It's different when it's Derrick Henry.
Absolutely. I mean, just look at our team, how they're built. I just don't see it. But let's get a question. Rendex had a good question. Is this a draft that will show which players are long-term answers and which players the Bucs want to replace with cheaper options? Good question. Who wants to first?
Yeah, I mean, I think sorry, I couldn't. You cut out there for a second. It's interesting because I do think at certain positions you could see that. Like we were talking about at guard, right? If they would draft an interior offensive lineman early, maybe you're thinking, okay, they think Kappa might be a little bit too expensive. They're not getting rid of Ali Marpet, right? He's a captain on a team. He's probably the best offensive lineman on the team right now. I think Wirfs could maybe pass him, but right now, today, I think Marpet's probably the best. So I don't think you get rid of him. Is Kappa too expensive? I mean, you already got 3 offensive linemen making $10 million. Is Kappa going to be too expensive for you? You let him walk, and then you pick up the cheaper option. I think that could be a scenario. I brought up on Twitter the other day, and I got some flack for it. Depending on what happens, and I'll get into it shortly. I don't want to spend too much time on it. Depending on what happens with Chris Godwin and Antonio Brown, let's say Chris Godwin's tagged, and let's say Antonio Brown walks, I wouldn't be opposed to drafting a wide receiver at 32 if the right one was there. It would have to be the right one. Like a Terrace Marshall, I think is a perfect fit for the Bucs offense. I doubt he's there, but I think he's a perfect fit from LSU. Just because, does Chris Godwin, being on the tag for 1 year, and then the Bucs have a three-headed monster at wide receiver, right? I like Tyler Johnson a lot. I like Scotty Miller, but those players aren't Terrace Marshall, in my opinion. So let's say a guy like Marshall comes in and you have this three-headed monster at wide receiver for a year, then you can let Godwin walk after he chases, $20+ million, and you don't have to spend that on Godwin. You can instead re-sign Carlton Davis. And if you want to re-sign Donovan Smith and Ryan Jensen, so you don't have to go just try plugging different holes, I think that would be an interesting scenario. And I got some flack for it. A lot of people are like, oh, you don't draft a receiver. I wouldn't just say, oh, draft a receiver. It has to be the right one. Like, I'm not just drafting a receiver to draft one. But it's something that I would consider. I don't know if I'd pull the trigger, but if Terrace Marshall was there or like a Rashad Bateman was there, it would be tempting. It would cross my mind if Chris Godwin receives a franchise tag. If he receives a long-term deal, Godwin and Evans are your future 1 and 2 for the time being. So there's real no need. But
yeah, no, I agree with that point. I think, talk about strength of the class. Receiver is so damn strong. Like you got a lot of players there. You could easily, and I'll just say it right now, they're going to draft a receiver, but maybe not first round. They're Jason Light loves drafting receivers. So I think that's
pretty good at it too.
He is good at it, right? And I think that's going to happen. And there's so many just different types of receiver in this class. Like, you could get a Rondell Moore, a little shifty guy who can, make plays as well. And Kadarius Toney,
Amari Rodgers is another guy like that, kind of.
Yeah. There's so many good ones. I mean, Mark was telling me about Atwell from Louisville. So there's a lot of good receivers.
That is straight up a BA guy. Really small, like skinny toothpick, extremely fast dude, deep threat. It's like JJ Nelson in a nutshell. That's what BA likes, and you can get him so late. I'm just like, I can almost see that happening. So it's crazy. So my thing is this. So I know with the draft and everything, the biggest thing with free agency, if we don't address it, is if Shaq does leave, we don't address outside pass rusher. I think that literally would be the biggest downfall of this team, because you mentioned it. You got an aging JPP. If Shaq does leave, there isn't really anything else besides JPP out there. I mean, yes, you have Quentin Bell, who is a prospect. You have Cam Gill.
Anthony Nelson.
But that's not really a speed edge rusher. He's got power. He's maybe a little bit more twitchy than Golson, but it's like, ooh, what do? You don't really have superior edge rushers. Yes, we always cause it up the middle. It'll help the edge rushers, but that is a big glaring hole you will have.
Your edge rushers will still have to be good, right? Like, just like we mentioned, Shaq Barrett's a good football player. Jason Pierre-Paul is a good football player. Your edge rushers still have to win their matchups and be good, no matter what the middle force is. So it just makes it, with that middle force is so strong, it just makes it easier for those edge rushers to get there. So if they do lose Shaq Barrett for nothing, I'm fairly confident that they still believe they're in this window, and I'm fairly confident that they would go out and sign somebody. Sort of like what the Bucs did when they released Gerald McCoy. They signed Ndamukong Suh just to replace him. Just sort of take him out and put him in. I'm confident, whether it's Leonard Floyd, whether it's Hassan Reddick, whether it's Carl Lawson, any of the names we talked about. Matt Judon from Baltimore is another name. I'm fairly confident that they would sign somebody. And then, if a Von Miller does get cut, something like that. And then, if you're signing a guy like Von Miller to a 1-year contract, you have 2 32-year-old edge rushers, then I think edge rusher definitely becomes a need that you need to fill within the first 2 rounds. I think that's pretty obvious there. I mean, I think they need youth already. Imagine, Barrett's 28 years old, replacing him with a guy that's 4 years older and coming off a major injury. I think you definitely need youth. But if Barrett were to walk, I would be pretty confident they'd bring somebody else in, just because I don't think they want to risk anything.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's definitely an option. You don't want to pigeonhole, yourself at the draft. I think that's what Jason he likes to do. Make sure he's got starting material pretty much at every position, and then you can draft, based on best player available and really attack it at the right way. And so, and it's gonna be awesome to see how it unfolds. Which direction are they going to go? How are they going to structure these contracts? And the good news is they got the man. They got Mike Greenberg. I mean, he is the dude. So I'm pretty confident. So we'll just have to see how it turns out.
All right, so a couple of good points in here. So a lot of people in the chat talking. So and talking almost stocks here. So let's go with this one. Rendax talking. Wide receiver is going to become a dime a dozen position, just like running back. So many tier 1 guys have come out since 2018. Wide receiver price is going to bust. Market is too high right now. Buy short. It's like a stock market game. I mean, but he's not wrong. I mean, there is a lot
of good point.
Talent, and I am right. I agree with him. You always buy short. You always buy guys that, okay, obviously top tier. That's not an area we really need. So buy the lower guys like Antonio Brown, those buying low, and a guy that literally has the potential to be number 1 in the whole entire league. So I agree with that 100%. I think he's talking about the 32nd pick being a wide receiver. What was your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good point. I mean, I definitely think when you're looking at the past trends of the past 3 drafts, right? Like when Michael brought up that, this wide receiver class is stacked, I was going to say, yeah, it seems like everyone is almost at this point. It seems like wide receiver and running back always seems to have a pretty strong class, right? I mean, this year you got Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, Rashad Bateman, Terrace Marshall, Rondell Moore, just like all the guys we mentioned, right? And then there's plenty more that I haven't even mentioned. Okay. And then it seems like every year there's 4 or 5 guys that you consider for round 1, and then you're like, guys in round 2, well, these guys could be a first-round pick. And there's guys in round 3. The Bucs got Tyler Johnson in the 5th round last year. Tyler Johnson had no business being in the 5th round last year. To me, I thought he was like a 3rd round pick. I honestly thought. I was shocked that he was there, and I was like, wow, like that is some value there. So I mean, it's a good point, and I mean that's definitely, I think there's definitely pros and cons to that. Picking the receiver at 32, and I'm not saying particularly I would do it. But I know Ren's a smart guy, so like he knows what he's talking about, and I agree with him. You're seeing it all over the place. You can get wide receiver for cheap. It's just when there's a special guy there, I would consider taking him over another position, say offensive line.
Yeah. But guys, let's be honest. We're going to bring in OBJ, and everything is going to be crystal. Everything's going to be fine.
Godwin, Brown, they're both back. Odell's going to come in. They're going to run 4 wide receiver sets. JJ Watt's going to play fullback on goal line situations.
Scotty Miller at running back.
Yeah, that's what it's going to be.
Introducing fullback. Hey, it's funny, but like watch one of these actually happen. Watch,
right?
It's crazy.
You can't say never. I mean, you really can't. Especially with Tom Brady at quarterback, can't say never with this team. Anything can happen.
It's insane.
Godwin, if they would lose Godwin, that's another situation where I think they would target maybe another receiver. Like I don't think they just want Mike Evans, and then I mean they would probably bring Antonio Brown back. I guess that's the easy answer. But I mean, I don't think they would want Mike Evans, Scotty Miller, and Tyler Johnson to be their top 3. I don't know if they have enough faith in Miller and Johnson, so I think they would. I don't know about Odell Beckham, but like I think you could see it in the free agent market. You could see them maybe go after a guy for cheaper. But I mean, like we talked about, I don't think Godwin's going anywhere. I honestly think I think they're going to be able to keep most of their guys. It's going to be difficult, and it's going to put them in a tough cap situation for the next 2-3 years. But I mean, that's the price you pay to win, and I think they're going to keep most of them. So Godwin, David, Barrett. If I had to bet, I think Fournette's gone. I think Brown. I know I said I didn't lean which way. If all of them are back, I say Brown's probably gone. I think Sue's back and Gronk's back. So most of them, the most important pieces, I think, to the puzzle are going to be back.
All right. So a couple Raymond comments here. Food for thought. Godwin was a 3rd round pick. Miller 6th round. Johnson 5th round. Who needs a 1st rounder?
Yeah, it goes right to Ren's point. You know,
Right.
it really does.
Yeah. Then he goes on 6 lights. What? WTF is wrong with you, RBT fam? Get on it down there. Hit the like button. Thank you, Raymond, as always. And he had one more good point. Where is it up here? Lost it. Here it is. He's giving you credit. Evan is right. It's not easy moving a right tackle, but with ease that Wirfs adjusted to the pro game, he's definitely capable of making that move. I'll add also, how many damn times did we see Marpet move? I mean, a guy that's that athletic.
Yeah, right. Started at right guard, went to center, went to left guard. Very versatile.
He's just making his way down the line, right?
Yeah.
So
he's going to end his career as a tackle. He's replacing Donovan Smith.
right? So, I mean,
That makes sense.
if a guy's that athletic, I mean,
He played college ball left tackle, so
true. He started at left tackle and then ended at right tackle. I don't get this. I don't get it. But hey, you never know. You truly never know. There was another point. Here we go. This is a good one that was brought up. TV12 Goatman said, see a lot of talk about guys taking 1-year deals, then going back to free agency next when cap goes up. Does that help or hurt us? Plus was mentioning that. Plus, take that one first, really quick.
I think it's that could benefit us. Obviously, short term. You know, obviously with the cap going up next year, that's going to help everyone. So I think it could be beneficial both ways. I don't really see it being a negative.
Yeah, I think in particular, I'm looking at the Bucs' particular free agents. Does Shaq Barrett want to take another 1-year deal? Nah, I don't know if he does. Does Levante David, is he going to take a 1-year deal? Like Chris Godwin, he's not going to want a 1-year deal. Like, you know, I look at the Bucs' particular free agents, and I don't see many candidates for, you know, of the obvious ones. Gronkowski, yeah, that's a 1-year deal. Ndamukong Suh, that's a 1-year deal. If Antonio Brown or Leonard Fournette, those are likely 1-year deals. But, you know, as far as Barrett, David, and Godwin goes, I don't see how taking a 1-year deal is really, and unless the prices are lower than we expect them to be, like very, you know, like Godwin is being offered like, you know, $12 million on the open market. He's expecting like 20, then it would make some sense. But I don't see any of those players, you know, being like, oh, a 1-year deal, I think, and then enter the market next year is better for me. Especially a guy like Levante David. He's already 31 years old. You're only going to get older. What do you think your market's going to be next year, right? I mean, do you really think your market's going to be as strong? I mean, your market's already going to be weak right now because you're an inside linebacker, you're over 30 years old, and they typically don't get paid much. So, you know, your market's already going to be weak. Do you want to take a 1-year deal and do this all again? I don't think so. So for the Bucs, I actually think, you know, the 1-year deals could benefit them getting some players like a JJ Watt, like a James White, maybe.
I think that's what he meant with the question.
Yeah, I think it could definitely. So I would say it would benefit them in multiple ways. But as far as their own free agents, I actually think most of them would prefer long-term deals, as every player would. But
yeah. All right, so we're getting near that hour, but I want to ask one last question because it hasn't been asked yet. According to the draft, or looking at the draft, would you or do you think the Bucs would even entertain a quarterback, drafting a quarterback first, second, anywhere in the draft?
Well, anywhere in the draft, I think once you enter the 4th round or so, I think that's where they would consider it. I still view the sense I get from it is that they want to win. Like, so I think they're gonna try in the first, you know, 2-3 rounds to get players that, for the future, but also players that can make an impact now. So, like, that's why I could see a running back in the first 3 rounds. I could see a receiver in the first 3 rounds. Those guys would see the field, right? If you're drafting a quarterback in the first 3 rounds, he's not seeing the field. He's not. And especially also Mac Jones, Kyle Trask, Like I'm not a huge fan of any of those guys. If you had a chance to get Tebow, I mean, you know, the Bucs already brought somebody out of retirement last offseason. They could do it again. So, I mean, you know, if a guy like Trey Lance was realistically going to be there, sure. Like I'd take a guy like that, but that's not going to happen. You know, it's like the top 4 quarterbacks are the top 4 quarterbacks, and they're going to go all within the top 15, maybe top 10. So I just, you know, maybe take a flyer on a guy if like a Jamie Newman from Georgia's there. Went to Wake Forest, but actually transferred to Georgia and didn't play at all. If he's there in the 5th or 6th, maybe take a shot on him. like a Kellen Mond from Texas A&M, take a shot on him maybe. But as far as like early rounds, I personally wouldn't.
Well, we got plenty more draft talk to talk about that.
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to hear your take on that. Well, than that, awesome show. Great questions down in the chat. Thank you guys. Evan, you freaking knocked all of them out of the park. That was awesome. But other than that, let everyone know again where they can find you, the Cannon Fire Podcast.
Yep.
There it is.
Yeah, so you can find us on YouTube, Cannon Fire Podcast. We do we're going to ramp up our off-season coverage here. We just finished a great season for everybody for content. So, and then you can find us everywhere you can listen to a podcast, so Apple, whatever, Google Play. We're also on Spotify. And then you can find me. My personal Twitter is @EvanNFL. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome, Evan.
Yeah, awesome, man. Thank you so much for joining us. It's been really fun.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Great show you guys got.
And guys, thank you again in the chat. With that said, until next Monday.